So over the course of the past few weeks, we have gotten a lot of Jimmy Butler news heading into the trade deadline. He just got suspended indefinitely, so it looks like a deal is going to be done pretty soon. But now we have another star player that has put himself in those conversations, and that is De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox, who was drafted with the 5th pick in the 2017 NBA draft to the Sacramento Kings, now wants out of Sacramento. After being the star player for the Sacramento Kings for over 6 years, it just looks like there has been a ceiling put on this team to where it doesn't look like they're going to contend, and it doesn't look like they're going to be at the upper spot of the Western Conference like they were years ago. After trading for Domantas Sabonis and trading for DeMar DeRozan this past offseason, it looks like Sacramento has made all their moves. It looks like Sacramento has done everything they could to put a contending or competing type of roster out there this season so they can get some wins and get some more playoff experience. But honestly, I think everything that could have went bad for the Sacramento Kings has gone bad. I think Keegan Murray's shot has really fallen through, and that's something that you would have hoped would have gotten back to the standard that he set his rookie season. I don't think DeMar DeRozan has been as good as you would have wanted him to be. And I even think De'Aaron Fox hasn't been as good as you would have wanted him to be this season as well. This season, De'Aaron Fox is averaging about 25 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, and 6 assists on 47, 32, 82 splits and 56% true shooting. Now, I'm always going to respect the talent that De'Aaron Fox is. I definitely think he is a top 10 caliber point guard in the NBA, but there's something about De'Aaron Fox's game that I just can't get a hold of, or I just can't get with. And we know, because I've made a video about this before, I think De'Aaron Fox has really relied too much on jump shots over the past few seasons. As you could tell, over the past 3 seasons, De'Aaron Fox has been shooting 14% of his shots from 0 to 3 feet and 32% of his shots from the three-point line. And he's also reliant on a lot of mid-range shots, which is not something we saw in the earlier part of his careers. Over the past 3 seasons, in 2024-2025, which would be this season, he shot 39% from mid-range. Last season, he shot about 37. And the year before that, he shot 47. So that was good. And now, while I do think De'Aaron Fox has not played to the level that you would have wanted him to this season, I do also think that there are some things with this franchise that isn't the most motivational either. When you look at a team like Sacramento, who has had a track record of being at the bottom of the league for multiple seasons and just constantly failing to put a better talent group around their star players, whether we look at DeMarcus Cousins, De'Aaron Fox, the last time they were true contenders was back in the early 2000s. And when you look at Sacramento, they're probably not the most compelling team in their own state to play for. When you share a state with teams like Golden State, the Lakers, and the Clippers, Sacramento is just not going to be the biggest destination for these free agent players. So when you look at a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who has been playing at a high level and, like I said, a top 10 point guard level for the past 4 to 5 seasons, you would think that he would want to contend sooner than later. And I just think the Sacramento Kings have hit a cap on what they can do. Now, the thing is, they have talent on their team. Don't get me wrong. DeMar DeRozan is talented. Domantas Sabonis is very talented. Keegan Murray is very talented. Malik Monk is very talented. But the thing that I look at it is you have a lot of talent, but you don't have a lot of movable talent. I think Domantas Sabonis is a very talented big, one of the best bigs in the NBA, having the best season of his career so far this season. But you have to pair a certain level of talent around Domantas Sabonis to make the team work. That's why he is not the biggest trade asset, to where we can move Domantas Sabonis and get a better player for De'Aaron Fox to make this case more compelling so he can want to stay around. Over the past 10 games, I would like to say the Sacramento Kings are 9-1. I'm not sure on that, but once again, I just don't think there are any moves for the Sacramento Kings team to make that could really keep De'Aaron Fox around. He's already said that there is a city that he is leaning towards going to once his contract is up in the summer of 2026. I think that is probably the biggest key to them moving him. I think they have an understanding that he's probably not going to return that summer. Let's probably get what we can off of him while he still has a year remaining on his deal, and he also has the other half of the season to play for the team that we are eventually going to send him to. I have a few teams in mind, and I have a few trades written up, so we're going to put those on the screen a little bit later. But once again, I just don't think the moves that they can make are going to make this team substantially better. And when you have all these teams in the Western Conference and a lot of young teams who are hitting their stride a lot quicker than the Sacramento Kings would, a few seasons ago, we saw the Sacramento Kings as a 3 seed in the Western Conference. Since then, we have gotten teams like the Memphis, who's bounced back extremely well. We have Houston, who's risen to the occasion. We have OKC, who's risen to the occasion. Back then, when the Kings were the 3 seed, the Dallas Mavericks weren't even in the playoff race. And now I could say, or I can hear an argument where they're the second or third best team in the Western Conference. So the Western Conference has gotten a lot tougher, and you also have to worry about Victor Wembanyama, who the Spurs are not going to just be this play-in or outside the play-in team for much longer. So those are things you have to worry about if you are De'Aaron Fox. So based on the title of this video, I think there are a few things that I would like to say to these young teams like the Spurs and the Rockets specifically, which are teams that he's been heavily rumored to. And I don't necessarily like the idea of De'Aaron Fox going to either one of those teams. And I've said this before when I had my last ball dominant episode with River Brown. If you guys want to check that out, it's on the channel somewhere. I'm not going to put the link in the description. I just don't have the will to. But if I'm the Rockets, if I'm the San Antonio Spurs, I've seen this type of blueprint that we have play out extremely well twice in the past 10 seasons. I've seen two franchises have major trade assets and sit on their hands and see what they actually have before going out and adding the pieces to what they necessarily need. When we take a look at those two franchises, it's the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Boston Celtics. Back in 2016, 2017, the Boston Celtics were in every single trade conversation because they had the Brooklyn Nets pick until I think about 2018. So if Kevin Durant was on the market, Boston was in the conversation. If DeMarcus Cousins was on the market, Boston was in the conversation. Paul George, Kevin Love, whoever you want to bring up. And every single offseason, we walked into the offseason saying the Boston Celtics could be the winner of the offseason if they just trade some of those picks. And it turns out those two picks ended up being Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So you got those picks, you built your team, you see what you had, you looked at the weaknesses and the strengths of your two best players, and you built around them accordingly, bringing in guys like Derek White, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, and now you get rewarded with a championship. If we look at the Oklahoma City Thunder got ballsy and they traded their franchise player in Russell Westbrook, the guy that just averaged a triple-double for 3 straight seasons, the guy who won an MVP, the guy that stuck around after Kevin Durant left them. They traded him and they brought back multiple assets. Same with Paul George. Paul George had an MVP caliber season and OKC still shipped him out. So OKC now and back then are still in every single trade conversation. It doesn't matter who gets on the market over the next 2 or 3 seasons, whether it's Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. OKC is going to be in every single conversation, but they have made the small moves, which has improved their team a lot more, like signing guys like Isaiah Hartenstein, like signing guys like, or trading for guys like Alex Caruso, like drafting guys like Aaron Wiggins, or giving Aaron Wiggins a chance, giving Isaiah Joe a chance, drafting Cason Wallace. Now they're the best team in the league. And whether you like it or not, I don't necessarily think that De'Aaron Fox raises the ceiling or raises the floor for this Rockets or Spurs team right now. I think a lot of people are scared to say it, but I think Victor Wembanyama is not ready for a playoff series just yet. I just don't think he's ready. As it looks right now, the San Antonio Spurs are looking outside of the play-in race. If they were to find their way inside the play-in and compete for the 8th seed, they'd be going up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And if you ask me, what does the Oklahoma City Thunder team do the best? Create turnovers. They create turnovers better than any team in the league. What does Victor Wembanyama have struggled with since he's walked into the league? Creating his own shots. Victor Wembanyama has a very hard problem or a very tough problem with creating his own shot and creating rim pressure because the ball handling is not there and he does not have the frame to really out-muscle his way to the rim. And it happened when Evan Mobley tried to put the ball on the floor when they played the Oklahoma City Thunder. Evan Mobley did not put the ball on the floor as much in those games because OKC did such a great job at creating turnovers with these bigs that try to handle the ball around the perimeter. That's just what they do. And I just don't necessarily think Victor Wembanyama is ready for that type of series. Even if you look at the other teams that are sitting at top of the West, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Houston Rockets, those are other teams who are still some of the top defensive teams in the NBA. I think Wemby's going to struggle against all 3 of those teams. So throwing De'Aaron Fox in there, who is not the best playmaker, doesn't go to the rim as much as you would like, and is a below league average mid-range shooter, I don't think that is winning a playoff series. I've seen on Twitter a lot, people say, De'Aaron Fox and Wemby can go win a playoff series right now. Against who? Like who? realistically, who are they going against to win a playoff series? I don't see a world where the San Antonio Spurs jump up to the 5th or the 6th seed and now all of a sudden they're just going up against the Nuggets or the Thunder or the Rockets or the Grizzlies and they're winning that series. I just don't believe it. And I think the same can be said about the Houston Rockets. De'Aaron Fox has not been stretching the floor like you would have wanted him to, and that's what the Rockets need. They need consistent shooting. You can't rely on Dylan Brooks' three-point shooting in a playoff series. I just don't think the Houston Rockets have the half-court offense to win a playoff series right now. I just don't. And I think De'Aaron Fox is not the playmaker in the half-court scenario that can rise this offense to a point where they can beat one of these more experienced teams that they're going to see. Like, let's not forget, Dallas is sitting at the bottom of the playoff race right now. De'Aaron Fox is going to look to get a very big payday once his contract is up. So you're telling me you're about to ship a lot of your young assets out or whatever you have, the draft capital, the young assets, you're about to ship that out to bring in De'Aaron Fox, give him probably 50 to 60 million a year on that contract, and you're not necessarily elevating your team. And especially for the Houston Rockets in that case, you have Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson is showing you day by day, every single day, that he is the franchise player for this team. And I just think things are going too well for the Spurs and for the Rockets to where they don't need to rush anything. They don't need to rush it. But I do have some trade ideas for all of these teams. I have two other teams who are wild cards. I'm going to talk about them right after I bring up the trades for the Houston Rockets and the San Antonio Spurs. The first trade I have is the San Antonio Spurs trading for De'Aaron Fox. The San Antonio Spurs are going to send out Devin Vassell, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and a 2025 first-round pick via the Atlanta Hawks for De'Aaron Fox. I definitely think in a trade, if you are going to get De'Aaron Fox, the Kings are either going to ask for Stephon Castle or Devin Vassell. That's just how it's going to go. And for the Houston Rockets, I have them sending out Fred VanVleet, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, a first-round pick in 2025 and a first-round pick in 2027 for De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter. By the way, not the biggest fan of sending out Tari Eason, but we move. So once again, I love the idea of Trae Young, I think a lot of people love the idea of Trae Young to the San Antonio Spurs or to the Houston Rockets until it's time to get to the playoffs and you have to beat some of these teams who are either the better half-court offense, whether it's the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Thunder, the Lakers. In my opinion, I think the Lakers could beat the Spurs or the Rockets in a playoff series, the Clippers. And we're also not going to skip past that De'Aaron Fox was very inefficient in the playoffs when he did play. The next thing I want to talk about is, where do the Sacramento Kings go from here? What makes it so interesting, like I said earlier in the video, is Domantas Sabonis isn't just a center that you can drop in on any team. I don't necessarily love the options that the Sacramento Kings would have if you put Domantas Sabonis on the market. I just don't. So if you are going to move him, where are you going to move him to? I don't think he's going to go back to Indiana. I think maybe the Hawks would want to throw in a package to get Domantas Sabonis, but I don't necessarily think him and Trae Young would work the best. I think Trae Young is way too ball dominant for Domantas Sabonis to be there. So that's what makes it more interesting, to where if De'Aaron Fox is traded, I don't think you're going to get the most packages for Domantas Sabonis to the point where you may just have to keep him. And you're probably going to just scramble for the most talent that you can get that can somewhat replace De'Aaron Fox's value. And that's what I meant about this Sacramento Kings team just being maxed out, to where they have made their moves. They have put all their cards on the table. You're not going to be able to move Domantas Sabonis as easily as you would think. You're not going to be able to move DeMar DeRozan as easily as you would think. So, ladies and gentlemen, this trade deadline should be pretty interesting. I was going to drop a trade deadline preview video, or just tier ranking the trade deadline teams on how they should play this trade deadline out. That's probably going to come out tomorrow, now that I've gotten this video out the way. But let me know in the comments what you guys think De'Aaron Fox should do, or what you guys think the Sacramento Kings should do. Should they blow up the entire roster, or do you guys kind of lean more with what I said of them being a little bit stuck in a situation? And if you guys like this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm out. Peace.